it's me, Joe Saiyan. Today we are going to be doing a build video for Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra, but before we begin I need to point out a couple things. So if you don't want to listen to this intro, please hit the timestamps in the description or comments below to skip ahead. Now, I currently, at the time of recording, am a part of the Squadra Creators Program, copyright of Bird Studio, SHUEISHA, TOEI, Animation, and Bandai Namco Entertainment Incorporated. Now, with that being said, Squadra is a free-to-play MOBA game designed to be played 4v4 competitively, and I am saying that I am by no means a pro. So, I'm not a pro, MOBAs are skill-based, future updates can invalidate the builds, and moving forward, build suggestions and card suggestions and skill suggestions are all only suggestions, and you should adjust as needed based on your skill level at playing this game. Thank you for watching, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. Alright everyone, it is Squadra time again, and today we are going to be discussing how to build the, well, God of Destruction and Training, Toppo. So Toppo is honestly pretty menacing with all of his mustache fury. Excuse me. I think honestly he's probably one of the best attackers in the game right now, and I think he's only currently being underutilized because of how oppressive Super Saiyan 3 Goku feels. But honestly, Toppo is terrifying. And we're going to discuss his abilities, skills, and card suggestions to really give you an idea of how to play this character. So first and foremost, we're going to go over his abilities real quick. His passive is I won't be fighting for justice any longer. An ability that boosts movement speed, applies movement speed up to self when moving towards an enemy with a mark of destruction. The effect is greater the more marks of destruction stacks there are. Now, marks of destruction deal more damage at set intervals that increases stacks, and effect's duration increases when attacks land. So essentially, you're dealing more damage on the enemies that you apply the mark of destruction onto. That's basically what it means. Now, rush attack is a physical... Excuse me. Sorry. So the rush attack extends the duration of mark of destruction. So if you apply a mark of destruction, you'll actually be extending the duration of the token itself when you're doing a physical attack. Now, it also shortens the cooldown of target if the target is an enemy hero. So when you are rush attacking somebody and your skills are on cooldown, if they have the mark of destruction, it'll be lowering the cooldown of your skills except the super attack. Now your skill 1 is a finger beam barrage that applies mark of destruction to the enemy's hit. Skill 2, which is probably his main attack, is the demolition tornado, where he just spins to win and applies mark of destruction to enemy's hit and deals more damage the more mark of destruction stacks there are. Now he also has skill 3, which is basically a counter attack. You apply a stance and it unleashes, it counters with a stack and an attack, and you gain extra HP as well as energy defense up and can move while in the stance. The more you're attacked while in the stance, the more damage dealt. Now, it does give you energy defense up when you do this, so a lot of people are under the assumption that it only is helping against energy attacks, but it's not. It's just helping you kind of tank an energy attack if it comes at you, but any attack that hits Toppo will retaliate with this. Now, a super attack is a sphere of destruction. It's basically the same thing as every other attack, and it does more damage based on how many marks of destruction are on the enemy. And once again, it also applies an entire stack to the mark of destruction. It will actually take up the entire stack, by the way, if you use this super. So be wary if you do decide to use it. Alright, so we're just going to go really quickly over his abilities. Level 1, skill 1 looks kind of short, not too crazy, just a couple attacks right there. 5-second cooldown. Level 2, a little bit longer range, not really a bigger radius per se, but will definitely do more hits right there. Definitely feels a lot better, I will say that. Once again, your cooldown lowers the more rush attacks you do on an enemy with a sphere of destruction. At level 3, much wider range to the point of where it's actually going outside your viewing range, which is fascinating. And it can hit them super far away, does a lot of attacks right there. Once again, lower your cooldown the more attacks you do on a character that has that token. Level 2 at level 1 is pretty small, like there's an insanely small radius, it's just like right here in his face. You can lower that cooldown excessively. Now, level 2 of this ability, just a little bit longer, a little bit bigger, definitely more of a kind of swinging, nice little AoE. It's not crazy, but if the enemy's on you, you're on them, essentially. So just go ahead and spin to win, lasts pretty well, increases your movement speed. Once again, lower your cooldown the more stacks there are easily. Now, at level 3, this is a pretty absurdly large radius. Like, this is intense. Like, this is an entire team fight, essentially. A huge area of effect. Once again, easily lower your cooldown just by attacking enemies with Sphere of Destruction. Just remember, Sphere of Destruction can only be applied to enemy heroes, not NPCs/minions. Now, the Sphere of Destruction, once again, it applies a stack to the enemy, and it's a counter-based move, so the enemy has to be attacking you. And it's actually a pretty large radius when you really look at it, but it does have a very long cooldown at about 15 seconds. But of course, as I said before, you can lower your cooldown by attacking an enemy with Sphere of Destruction, so it's not too bad. Pretty large radius, even at level 1. Nice little bit of amount of damage it applies. Very, very handy skill, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty insane. Toppo's pretty nuts with how he can increase his cooldown. So yeah, it's just absolutely crazy how much damage he can do on that. Let's try level 2, see how that feels and how that looks. It's easier to just let him reset. There we go. Okay, so once again, huge, crazy range of attacks coming in. They still have to hit you, of course. And then at level 3, oh. There we go. So once again, the cooldown is the worst part about him, unfortunately, when it comes down to this. And you do get a little bit of extra HP, and I think that's the main reason you really want to utilize the ability, is you want the extra HP. I think that extra HP is going to be coming in a lot more handy. See that big orange amount of bar you got right there? It's just a huge amount of extra HP. So, level 1 super. Pretty crazy amount of damage. A nice little AoE right there. It's pretty crazy there. It does more damage based on the stacks that you do. And even then, it's still doing crazy amounts of damage. Pretty long cooldown though, and once again, his passive does increase the cooldown of his skill 1, 2, and 3, but not his super. So let's take a look at this right here. How much damage does this do? Yeah, it takes about all of Vegeta's armor just from using that. Now, if we do the same thing again, but we just apply 1 stack of the Mark of Destruction right there, see how much extra damage we do even at level 1. So not very much, but apparently Vegeta has Too Easy activated on his character, so he did get a bit of HP back there. So let's try applying 2 stacks if we can. That's 2 stacks and pop. Huge amount of extra damage even at level 1. At lower levels, that's essentially an auto KO. Now let's try level 2. Not too much bigger of a radius, but a decent amount. So once again, let's apply a stack and see what happens when we just use 1 stack at level 2. Nothing? That's definitely a glitch if I've ever seen one. Okay, so let's apply some stacks here. Apply stack and do super attack. About the same amount of damage. So level 2 isn't too honestly different. It just depends on if the enemy is actually going to be in the sphere destruction. So at level 3, the AoE is massively larger. I'd say literally level 1 to 3 is very big difference. I don't see too much of a difference between level 1 and 2. It all depends on the stacks that you have, because if you don't have any stacks, it's still doing the same amount of damage. It's just the range of the AoE, the range in the AoE that's doing everything. Like a huge range. You can just kind of chuck the ball in that direction, essentially. So, as far as helpers go for Toppo, I would have to say probably, honestly, Nail. Nail is probably the best one, or Bergamo. Surprisingly, even though he looks very insane and you want enemies to hit you, there's going to be a lot of the times where Toppo does want some space, and Botamo is going to be... I keep saying Bergamo. I apologize if anyone has heard that in other videos. But Botamo gives you a little bit of extra breathing space, and I think that's kind of what Toppo needs. But at the same time, Nail, is going to be right up close and personal with the God of Destruction. He is the assistant of this guy at this point. And just because you're constantly in a physical attack range, it just makes sense to be utilizing him. I would say you can definitely use World King. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it does take time to place a helper, and you have to stay within the range. Most people that see a helper come up that has a circle like that just kind of wander away from it. It's not too hard to avoid this kind of buff. So I would have to say Botamo and Nail are my preferences. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the skill suggestions of part of this video. Now I do got a couple different builds here for you, but the first build is going to be primarily focusing up on the spin to win ratio with skill 1. What we'll end up doing is sacrificing a lot of the skill points into skill 3. Skill 3 is very good, and I think there's a lot of people that love the crap out of it, and they love to abuse the crap out of it too. My problem with it is that although yes, it does, when you do level it up, it does increase the amount of defense and HP that you get. What it doesn't do is that it doesn't really increase the AoE. It says it increases the AoE, but really the enemy still has to hit you. And I think the main reason people utilize it is so that they will get hit with an AoE or a super attack, and they're just like, oh, there's Super Saiyan 3 Goku around the corner. I'm just going to go ahead and activate skill 3. Okay, you don't need to be at too high of a skill level to be just using that. You see him, you activate it. This should be used more as a defensive mechanism. It's a counter. It's not an attack. It's a counter. You have to predict when the enemy's going to hit you. Now, short of late game, I can totally understand pumping this in at maybe level 11 or level 10. Sure, go ahead and give him level 2. I don't think there's much of a reason for level 3 in my personal opinion. So I would rather have the pressure and extra added stacking capability and lowered cooldown of skill 1 and 2 doing damage, rather than waiting on skill 3, getting pummeled by enemies' attacks and losing a lot of HP. There's been a lot of times where I've seen other players try to abuse skill 3 and they just end up getting killed in the process. And the super attack is very good, but I do feel like it's not insane. It is very good at level 2 and 3, not insane at level 1. It's mostly has to do with you getting your stacks off from skill 1, 2, and 3. But skill 1 and 2 are going to be the primary area where you're going to get those those Sphere of Destruction tokens. Now this extra build right here is going to be primarily towards those folks that want to focus up on getting this right here. Remember, the Sphere of Destruction is nice, but the super is also not necessarily necessary for Toppo. Toppo is very dominant just with his spin to win ratio and countering with his level 3. or his skill 3. So if you really wanted to, you could just honestly focus up on skill 1 and 2, give skill 3 a little bit of focus here, and then later on finish off the super at the end game point and just abuse it after you've already been abusing this. And this is pretty much my only way to really go about it. Majority of the time, you want to just be using skill 1 and 2 constantly on a regular spammed up basis. It's going to apply a lot of pressure. It's going to be terrifying. You're not going to know what to do a lot of the time. Skill 3 should be used as a retaliation, as it is a counter. It's not to be just spammed because the enemy approached you. Now, card suggestion wise, I do have just a couple of builds here for you. This first build is primarily the standard build, of course, snowball, barrier, and limit breaking jump. Absolutely nothing wrong with this. In fact, barrier is helping out quite a bit when you trying to utilize skill 3. I think it helps out quite a bit, especially when you're using skill 1 into skill 2. A lot of the time, people like to kind of hit you with skill 2 when you're using skill 2. Otherwise, I think a full damage build with Toppo is terrifying as well. He already does a crap ton of damage, low cooldown ratios. So Snowball into Giant Slayer and Pursuer, because you're going to be activating multiple skills consistently, is just absolutely crazy. And a second set of builds is more kind of towards the heavy, assaultive kind of enemy heroes you're fighting. It's a little hard in the early games to really understand if your enemy team is going to be kind of pressuring you more. But if you can kind of guesstimate if you need the buildup over the snowball, then it would probably be best to learn that early on and kind of go with buildup and steel skin, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to wait for Toppo to use his skill 3. They're going to stop, pause, and then just bombard you with attacks. Some people look for that. So I think it would be totally possible to just go kind of more defensive build and then Pursuer on the end cap there. Otherwise, I think Snowball into Barrier and Defensive Step is also a nice way to go for being a kind of damagey, tanky-esque damage dealer. I feel like Toppo is kind of squishy to a degree, in that if you don't time your skill 3 appropriately, you can get caught off guard, and if you apply too much pressure and you're too bold, you can get caught off guard as well, because Toppo does feel like you can apply an absurd amount of pressure to the enemy without caring. But if your lane partner is not assisting you, and you're just kind of off on your own, you could be in this excessive trouble, and trust me when I say, unless you're queuing up with teammates, you're going to find that happening a lot. But anyways, I think that's going to go ahead and be it for the build for Toppo. Toppo is honestly, he kind of plays himself. You do skill 1, you skill 2 to spin to win, and that's pretty much it. And if you understand the spin to win reference from its origins, then kudos to you, you're old like me. Anyways, let me know down in the comments below if you are using a specific set of different skills at specific levels. You know, what is your skill build? And what cards do you utilize with Toppo? I want to know down below in the comments, because my builds are not the best builds. They will never be. This is a MOBA. The game changes. It adapts. Everyone plays differently and at different skill levels. So we'll discuss down below with others so that we can help each other out and have fun with this. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a good day and a good night.